Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do two stories from off of Stay Awake. Stay Awake's the subreddit Stay Awake. It's just you write things that would keep you up at night. So they're stories. So the first one is called Why You Shouldn't Look at Creepy Websites. Let's get started. Okay, let's get started. So I'm kind of freaked out right now, I guess I need to start the story from the beginning so you understand. For my entire life, I've been an insomniac. My parents are super religious, so I could never go to a doctor about this problem. I very rarely took sleeping pills either, because it would only make me tired in the morning. So instead of getting a good night's sleep, I would be trapped in a state of being tired but wide awake at the same time. To distract me from my thoughts, some nights I would just scroll through my phone, either on Pinterest or fanfiction websites. Every so often, though, I would get an urge to just go onto the dark web or something like that. Most of the time, I would just ignore it and watch creepy videos instead to kill the urge. But some nights, I would be unsuccessful, like last week when our story officially begins. It was late, and I knew I wouldn't be getting much sleep, if any, so I decided I would just get coffee in the morning to wake me up. If that didn't help, I always brought those 24-hour energy drinks to school so I wouldn't pass out. The teachers didn't mind. All they cared about was getting paid. Coming to the conclusion, I got my phone and scrolled through Pinterest, trying to find good ways to get sleep. Without pills, of course. I tried this time and time again, to no avail. As I was just about to find a somewhat promising lead, I got the urge again. Something about it was different this time. I felt angry, almost to the point of hurting someone or myself. So out of fear, I looked up good creepy websites to make you never sleep again. Yeah, I know it was dumb, but I assumed it would help more if the website was scarier. I pressed search and clicked on the first thing to pop up. At this point, I was so desperate I didn't even check the name of the website. When the screen loaded, the only thing that appeared was a picture. It was of a young girl, maybe 10 or 11-ish, with multiple stab wounds on her body. The creepiest thing about this picture wasn't the gore or the age of the girl. The thing that sent shivers down my spine was the fact that her eyes were gone, replacing them was two buttons, almost like Coraline. If you haven't seen Coraline, watch it after this video. After what seemed like hours of staring at the photo, a text box appeared. Like what you see, it said. I shook my head vigorously, even though whoever made the site probably couldn't see. That's too bad, the text said, almost as if the person could see me after all. I thought you would like this picture, blank. At the sight of my name, I instantly threw my phone. I was so freaked out that I ran to my parents' bedroom, screaming and crying, trying to tell them what had happened. But all that came out was incoherent mumbles. After my parents calmed me down, I had explained what happened. They called the cops almost immediately, and we ended up moving 2 days later. Sometimes I question myself, was it a dream? But after asking myself that question, I remember that if I fell asleep, I would know about it. That's the end of the first story. Creepy. If you don't know what, I'm just going to explain what Coraline is. Spoiler, if you've never seen it, I'm sorry, skip this few seconds. But Coraline is a stop motion picture animated movie. So it's like if you live a miserable life, you'll get this doll, and then you can transfer into a different world where you can be happy, this and that. Well, to stay there, you have to sew buttons over your eyes. That's what makes this creepy. Whew. Okay, let's go on to the next one. The next one is called The Earth Disappeared. I'm standing on the International Space Station's revolving deck as I write this to no one in particular. Every 30 seconds, it rotates around so you can see the Earth as it hangs in space. I was entranced by the calm little ball of water and dirt from the first time I saw it. It's so easy to forget how chaotic it is down there. From the cold and silent reaches of space, you forget that Earth is full of honking horns and screaming people. It's so easy to forget that terror exists in place other than Earth. I was honored. thrilled even when they told me I had been selected to reside on the International Space Station. I had been dreaming of space since I was a little kid. Like many children my age, I had decided that I wanted to be an astronaut. Unlike children of my age, though, I meant it. Every class and every grade, every extracurricular, and every internship had been tailored to get me to this point in my life. Every move I had ever made had brought me to this point. Standing on the rotating viewing platform so I can watch the Earth circle around. At least I could until about 8 hours ago. I woke at 6 a.m., International Space Station time, as I do every day. I took my morning shower, made my first coffee of the day, and walked into my kitchenette to make my breakfast. Then I took my breakfast to the rotating platform so I could eat as I watched the Earth roll lazily by. But when I came to the platform that morning, I was in for a surprise. As I glanced out the thick glass, I was greeted with nothing. I could see a few satellites drifting lazily through the inky vortex. I could see the usual collection of debris just waiting to be burned up in the Earth's atmosphere. I could see the stars as they twinkled in the darkness of space. I could see the other planets as they winked farther from the station. What I could not see was the Earth. I can still see my broken coffee cup as it spreads across the floor. My overturned bowl of oatmeal is sitting near it. I'm standing not 10 feet away from the place I stood when I discovered there was no Earth. As I sit writing, I can hear the sounds of chaos that have invaded my once peaceful haven. The crew is going mad, running rampant with panic. They now know what it must feel like to be a newborn who has been clipped from its umbilicus, aka umbilical cord. Hale laughed when I told him what I had seen. Hale is the communication officer for the station, and he thought I was joking with him. When it became clear that I wasn't kidding, he tried to hail the command center in California, just to put my mind at ease. They would pick up, and I would see that this whole thing was a big misunderstanding. When they didn't answer, he seemed unsure but not alarmed. It must just be interference. I'll try the center in Florida, he said with a little laugh. No answer. No answer. We tried to hail system control in 5 different countries. No answer. We attempted to contact anyone within the sound of our voice and also received no answer. Only then did he come to the observation deck with me and verify that there was no Earth. Someone is crying. I can hear them sobbing from the crew quarters. As I sit and stare into the void, there were a lot of people mourning Earth's disappearance. When I left my room and walked out here, I could see the signs of suicide as well. Ravita, one of our science team members, was lying in her bed as I walked by. The door was open and she looked so peaceful as she lay there. Still, I knew she must be dead. A line of foam slid down the corner of her mouth, and her chest moved not at all. Others had hung themselves. You could see them hanging like strange wind chimes from the vents in their rooms. There were no firearms on the station, but I could hear this research lab table saws running full blast and could guess what sort of business it was doing. Others were using this as an excuse for bad behavior. The mess hall was full of people eating the food stores and drinking what little alcohol we had available on the station. I was so sure a certain amount of rape and murder was going on. As I stood here stargazing, though, it hardly seemed to matter. Very little mattered now. We were adrift, our umbilicus cut, and we were all living in borrowed time. The air would cycle through the air handlers indefinitely, that was a given, but without food and water, we would die. Our food came on a shuttle from Earth once a month. We were not equipped for growing our own food, no seeds, and very little soil on board. Once our food was gone, we would starve. I am sorry I'm messing up these words, apparently. Whew. At the rate they were eating the food in the mess hall, we would be lucky to have food for the week. I put a hand against the glass, momentarily dizzy. I see the red handprint left behind, and know I must finish writing quickly. They've left me alone for now, but if the puddle of blood oozing into my chair is any indication, I don't have very long. Hale and I took our findings to the head research. Blaine looked over the numbers, checked the data, and then came with us to the observation deck to see for himself. By this point, several of the researchers and other station staff had gathered to look out into space, hoping to find the familiar blue orb. When they saw him, they all came to Vland for answers. Vland was stoic in the face of their fear, answering their questions evenly and putting their minds at ease. I'd known Vland for years, an Israel native drifting towards old age, and I had never once seen him lose his cool. He didn't start now. I do not know what has happened, but I think what is important is that we not panic. We are handpicked for this mission, and we must act like we deserve to be here. Go about your duties as you would on any other day. When news surfaces, I'll let everyone know. He called a meeting with Boggs, head of security, Mortimer, director of operations, Charles, Hall, and myself. Charles was my boss, the head of research under Vland, and was very British. I think the important thing here is that we maintain order. We have over 100 people on board, men and women, and if anarchy breaks out, then we may never over this. Over this? Mortimer asked skeptically. Pull your head out of your ass, Charles. The Earth is gone. We don't know that for sure, Charles stated, wiping his bed head with a handkerchief. I've got eyes, same as you, and they'll tell me that the Earth is now what it is supposed to be. Now either we've drifted and we aren't where we are supposed to be, or, oh, don't pretend that you know a damn thing about what you're talking about, Charles shot back hotly. We pay you and your wrench jockeys to fix the air handlers, keep the pneumatic doors running, and maintain the system on the station. You're not astrophysicist, Mortimer, not by a long shot. Mortimer turned red as he stepped closer to the blistering Englishman. Mortimer was no egghead, that was certain. But he had served in 2 wars and was the most exceptional nuclear submarine tech the program could lay hands on. He was also bristling massive service tattoos and sculpted muscles. I had seen him work out in the gym, giving the heavy bag a run for its money daily. Charles was about to learn what that bag knew for a certainty. Just because I didn't go to some fancy university doesn't mean I'm country dumb, you little insect. Gentlemen, please, Vland shouted, bringing the 2 back to their senses. We have a problem, and your fighting is not helping. We have not drifted, Mortimer. Our telemetry tells us that we are occupying the same position in space that we had been holding since the beginning. We have not moved, so unless our telemetry is very wrong, it's not, Charles said smugly, then something has happened to the Earth. It is our job, then, to keep the peace. Mortimer, tell your people to go about their tasks as they would. Boggs, tell your security staff to maintain order, but not to excite the crowd. I don't want public hangings, but I do want to see malcontents again going to the brig. Charles, keep your people on task and keep their minds occupied. Maybe you could push forward all agriculture projects for the time being. Food may soon become a priority. Dismissed. He dismissed them, but their animosity remained. For the next few hours, tension slowly built between the science team and the maintenance team. Mortimer could be seen talking to his crew, casting dark looks at anyone from the science team that got too close. The talk was loud and angry, and many of Boggs' security crew could also be seen in their discussions. Boggs seemed to share Mortimer's outlook on the current situation. The 2 were soldiers after all, and saw us as little more than egghead civilians who thought too much of themselves. Charles was just as bad. He sealed off the science lab and put us to work on the greenhouse project at once. He stormed around like a rat in a cage, snapping at people for no reason and confiding to his group of favorites about the stupid jarheads who thought they knew better. He kept looking towards the door furtively, and I know he was thinking the same thing I was. Boggs had override keys to all the doors on the station, and if those jarheads decided that we wanted into the lab, there wasn't a damn thing he could do about it. At 10:30, Vland called Charles. The 2 had a very heated discussion as quietly as possible, but it was evident that something was going on. Charles turned pale towards the end, and his eyes kept slipping back to the door. He was afraid of something out there, more fearful than he'd been before. When the phone suddenly went dead, he put it in the cradle with all the reverence of a casket going in the ground. They made their move around noon. We had heard some dissident noises from outside, but Charles wouldn't let us leave. He told us to keep working and never mind what we heard. The missing members were not commented on. They had never shown up this morning, but we all just keep doing what we did best. As the noises came closer, I saw many of the scientists looking anxiously at the door. We all glanced over when the door opened, and our fears were realized. In walked 8 members of Bog's security detail, followed by Mortimer and another 8 of his maintenance crew. As I mentioned, there were no guns on the station, but they all had batons or wrenches or knives from the kitchen tucked into their belts. They blocked the door as they fanned out, and it was apparent what they intended to do. Charles was livid. What is the meaning of this? We are performing serious work in here, so if you could just, by the order of Overseer Boggs, we are taking the science team into custody. Mortimer announced, a huge grin spreading across his face. Overseer, Charles sputtered. Flan will have something to say about this when I tell him what you've done. But as he approached Mortimer, the big man swung a monkey wrench. He'd had his hand wrapped around and scattered Charles' teeth and blood across the lab. Charles fell like a sack of oats, and pandemonium ensued. We all broke, making for the door and hitting the wall of guards. I don't remember how I got away. All I remember was a bright flash of pain in my side as someone bumped me hard. Suddenly, I was in the hall and running for Flan's quarters. The corridors rang with screams and noise. People were running as other science teams were being rounded up by security staff. As I ran, dodging groups of security staff as they chased others, I was aware again of the sharp pain in my abdomen. That's when I looked down and saw the handle sticking out of my side. The blade it was attached to was long and sharp. A kitchen knife used for boning fish. When I pulled it out, it was red with my blood, and the blood wasted little time in dribbling out. I shrugged out of my lab coat and tried to tie it off like a tourniquet, but it did little more than give the blood something new to stain. I felt a little dizzy. I wanted to sit down, but knew this was the wrong time to do it. I kept going, hoping Bland could bring peace to the situation, but already fearing what I would find when I got to his office. I didn't even have to go in to see what they'd done to him. He was slumped over his desk in a pool of his own blood. Someone, probably Boggs, had cut his throat from him left him where he lay. I turned to go, and at that moment I think I was already planning on coming here to die. I dropped the knife on the floor and walked unnoticed through the halls. I saw the bodies, I heard the screams, but I was as ambivalent of them as was the vacuum outside. Couldn't help them, and they couldn't save me. So what was the point of delaying the inevitable? My eyesight is getting foggy now. I think I came here hoping to see Earth blink back into existence before I die. I don't know if I really want that or not, but it would make me feel better to know that there is still an Earth out there. As chaotic as those billions of humans are, I don't think I want the few still alive here to be what my species will judge by. They have proven that humanity, even the best of humanity, will revert back to apes at a moment's notice. Survival of the fittest, even in space, is not a hallmark I wanted on display, but it seems to be what this station's history will be left with. I'm going to go to sleep now. My fingers are numb, and rest seems like a good idea. If this is truly my final message, then take some solace in knowing that I died doing what I love. I died among the stars, hoping for hope for the Earth and its people. Yeah, that's the end of the story. There's a comment, and OP responds. The person commented, "This one really got me. I loved it. Something like this would be great Netflix movie." Yes, it would be. OP said, "Couldn't agree more." Someone else said, "This got me hooked. Superb writing." Another person said, "This is amazing and terrifying to think about at the same time. Thank you." And the last person who commented said, "Disturbing and wonderful read. Keep up the good work." Both of these are good. Like, I could truly see the Earth disappearing one day, like you're out in space and you wake up and Earth is gone. Yeah. That means here I'm off. Same with like the don't go on creepy websites. Hopefully, I know I'm not in a dark room. It's probably not as for me. If you got scared in one of these, let me know down below. But if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like or a thumbs up. If you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe and turn on bell notification. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!